Elara Vane gazed out the floor-to-ceiling windows of their penthouse apartment, the city skyline glittering like a sea of diamonds under the evening sun. At 32, she had it all: a thriving career as a gallery curator, a devoted husband in Marcus, and a life that screamed success. Marcus, with his sharp suits and disarming smile, was the CEO of a tech startup that had just hit unicorn status. Their mornings were filled with shared lattes and laughter, evenings with candlelit dinners and whispered promises. But lately, cracks had begun to spiderweb through the facade. It started subtly. Serafina Thorne, Marcus's indispensable executive assistant, lingered too long at company events, her emerald eyes locking onto him with an intensity that made Elara's skin crawl. Serafina was a vision, tall, raven-haired, with a sultry voice that could charm investors out of millions. "She's just dedicated," Marcus would say, brushing off Elara's concerns. But Elara noticed the late-night texts, the inside jokes, the way Serafina's hand would graze his arm. One evening, as they prepared for a gala, Elara caught Serafina in their home uninvited, dropping off urgent documents. "Oh, Elara, darling," Serafina purred, her lips curving into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Marcus mentioned you'd be out. I didn't mean to intrude." Elara forced a smile, but unease gnawed at her. That night, as Marcus fastened her necklace, she murmured, "She's always around, Marcus. It's like she lives here." He chuckled, kissing her neck. "Jealous? She's harmless. You're my world." But as they stepped into the limo, Elara couldn't shake the feeling that their perfect life was teetering on the edge of something dark. The gala was a whirlwind of champagne flutes and flashing cameras, but Elara's mind was elsewhere. She watched Marcus across the room, deep in conversation with Serafina, their heads bent close, as if sharing secrets. When he finally returned to her side, she couldn't hold back. In the quiet of their ride home, the city lights streaking by, she turned to him. "Marcus, we need to talk about her," Elara said, her voice steady but edged with hurt. "Serafina. She's not just your assistant. I see the way she looks at you." He sighed, loosening his tie. "Elara, not this again. She's professional. We've been over this." "Professional? She texts you at midnight. She shows up at her house." Elara's voice rose, trembling. "Tell me the truth. Is there something going on?" Marcus gripped the steering wheel tighter, his jaw clenching. "You're being paranoid. Serafina's helped build the company. She's a friend, nothing more." But his eyes darted away, and Elara's heart sank. "A friend who calls you darling in emails? I saw one on your phone." She regretted snooping, but the whispers of doubt had grown too loud. He pulled over abruptly, the car jerking to a stop. "You went through my phone? That's low, Elara." His tone was cold, defensive. "Because I don't trust you anymore." Tears welled in her eyes. "If it's nothing, fire her. Prove it." Marcus stared ahead, silence stretching like a chasm. "I can't do that. Not now, with the merger." He reached for her hand, but she pulled away. "I love you, Elara. Only you." She nodded, wiping her tears, but the words felt hollow. As they drove home, the tension hung heavy, unspoken accusations poisoning the air. Little did she know, this would be their last real conversation. Serafina Thorne watched from the shadows of the parking garage, her gloved hands steady as she crouched beside Elara's sleek black sedan. The brake lines gleamed under her flashlight, vulnerable and inviting. For months, she'd orchestrated this, subtle manipulations, forged closeness with Marcus, all while plotting to erase the one obstacle in her path, Elara. "Pathetic," Serafina whispered to herself, snipping the lines with precision she'd learned from online tutorials and a shady mechanic she'd bribed. "She thinks she owns him, but Marcus is mine. Always has been." Flashbacks flooded her, stolen kisses in the office after hours, promises whispered in hotel rooms. Marcus swore he'd leave Elara, but his cowardice dragged on. No more waiting. As the fluid dripped onto the concrete, Serafina smiled wickedly. "One drive down that winding hill tomorrow, and it's over. Accident, they'll say. Tragic." She wiped her tools clean, heart racing with exhilaration. By morning, she'd be the shoulder Marcus cried on. The next day, Elara slid into the driver's seat, still reeling from the fight. The engine purred to life, and she accelerated onto the highway. At first, everything felt normal. Then, as she approached the steep descent, she pressed the brake. Nothing. Panic surged as the car hurtled faster, the pedal useless. "No, no," she screamed, yanking the wheel. Tires screeched, metal twisted against guardrails. The world spun in a blur of glass, and pain before darkness swallowed her. From her apartment, Serafina refreshed the news app, a glass of wine in hand. When the headline flashed, "High-profile curator in critical crash," she toasted the screen. "Goodbye, Elara. Hello, forever with Marcus." Elara's world returned in fragments, beeps of machines, sterile scents, muffled voices. But when she tried to open her eyes, nothing happened. Panic clawed at her mind. Am I dead? No. She could think, feel the sheets against her skin, hear the rhythmic whoosh of a ventilator. Yet her body was a tomb, unresponsive. Locked-in syndrome, she'd later learn, the cruelest prison, where the mind screamed but the flesh betrayed. Marcus? She thought desperately, willing her fingers to twitch. Nothing. Memories assaulted her. The argument, the failed brakes, the crash. Was it an accident? Hours blurred into eternity. Doctors murmured about vegetative state, their words piercing her soul. Poor thing. No awareness. But she was aware, agonizingly so. The itch she couldn't scratch, the thirst unquenched. "Please, someone see me." Her best friend Jude visited, his voice breaking. "Elara, if you're in there, fight. I need you." His hand squeezed hers, and she poured every ounce of will into responding. A faint tremor? He didn't notice. Despair washed over her as he left, leaving her alone in the deafening silence of her cage. The door creaked open, heels clicking like predators' claws. Serafina's perfume, jasmine and venom, wafted in. Elara's mind recoiled. Her? Why is she here? Serafina approached the bed, her voice a silky whisper. Well, Elara. Look at you now. Not so perfect anymore." She traced a finger along the foreline, chuckling. "The doctors say you're gone. Just a shell. Perfect for me to finally speak my mind." Elara's inner rage boiled. "You bitch. What have you done?" "I did it, you know," Serafina confessed, leaning close. "Cut those brakes myself. Watched you drive off that morning, knowing you'd never make it home. Marcus is mine now. We'll marry, have the life you stole from me." She laughed softly. "He thinks it was fate. But it was me, all me. Goodbye, rival." Elara screamed silently, fury igniting her trapped soul. "I'll make you pay. Somehow." Serafina straightened, satisfied, and sauntered out, oblivious to the witness she'd just awakened. Elara Vane's world was a suffocating void, her body a traitor that refused to obey. The hospital room's sterile hum was her only companion, the rhythmic beep of the heart monitor a cruel reminder of her entrapment. But Serafina's visit had lit a fire in her mind, her gloating confession replaying like a broken record. "I cut those brakes myself." Elara's fury was a lifeline, anchoring her to the fight. She wasn't just a victim. She was a witness, and Serafina's arrogance would be her undoing. The door opened again, and Elara braced herself, fearing another taunt. But it was a nurse, adjusting her with clinical detachment. "Stable, but no change," the nurse muttered, jotting notes. Elara screamed in her mind, "I'm here. I heard her. She tried to kill me." But her lips stayed sealed, her eyes unblinking. As the nurse left, Serafina's voice echoed back, a detail searing itself into Elara's memory. "I paid that greasy mechanic on 5th Street to show me how. He thought I was joking." The specificity was a gift, a thread Elara clung to, vowing to unravel Serafina's plot if she ever escaped this prison. Her thoughts churned, piecing together the betrayal. Marcus's evasiveness, Serafina's smugness. It all made sense now. But how could she tell anyone? Her body was a locked vault, her voice stolen. Yet, somewhere deep, a spark of defiance burned. I'll find a way, Serafina. You don't know who you're dealing with. Jude Hollis slouched in the hospital chair, his tattooed knuckles clenched, eyes red from sleepless nights. Elara's best friend since their art school days, he was a wildfire of loyalty, brash, intuitive, and fiercely protective. The room smelled of antiseptic and despair, but Jude refused to accept the doctor's grim prognosis. Vegetative, they'd said. No hope. Bullshit. He knew Elara, her stubbornness, her fire. She was in there somewhere. Elle, you gotta give me something, he whispered, leaning close to her still face. Her chestnut hair fanned across the pillow, her features serene but lifeless. You're tougher than this. Remember that time we snuck into the gallery after hours and almost got arrested? You laughed the whole way home. He chuckled, but it caught in his throat. Come on, fight. He'd always distrusted Serafina. The way she hovered around Marcus, her syrupy charm. It reeked of calculation. Yesterday, he'd seen her in the hospital lobby, all crocodile tears and designer heels, playing the concerned friend. She's got Marcus wrapped around her finger, Jude muttered, pacing. Something's off. Then, a flicker, a twitch in Elara's finger, so slight he thought he'd imagined it. He froze, heart pounding. Elle? Was that you? He stared, willing it to happen again. Nothing. But doubt gnawed at him. He grabbed his phone, texting his sister, a neurologist. Can someone in a coma move? Even a little? Her reply was quick. Possible in locked-in syndrome. Rare, but check for eye movement or twitches. Jude's pulse raced. You're in there, aren't you? He said, hope flaring. I'm not giving up on you. Across town, Serafina Thorne was rewriting history. In Elara and Marcus's penthouse, she moved with predatory confidence, a box of Elara's belongings at her feet. She held up a framed photo, Elara and Marcus on their honeymoon, laughing on a beach, and tossed it into the trash with a sneer. Time to go, darling, she said, replacing it with a sleek vase. She'd already swapped Elara's vibrant art for minimalist prints, erasing her rival's presence piece by piece. Marcus sat on the couch, staring blankly at his phone. You sure this is okay? He asked, voice hollow. It feels wrong. Serafina knelt beside him, her hand on his knee, voice honeyed. Marcus, sweetheart, it's been weeks. The doctors said she's not coming back. You're allowed to move forward. She leaned closer, her breath warm. We're allowed. He flinched, guilt etching his face. I loved her, Sarah. Still do. Of course you do, she cooed, masking her irritation. But you deserve to live, not mourn forever. Let me help you. She handed him a glass of whiskey, her smile calculated. Inside, she seethed. Marcus's hesitation was a hurdle, but she'd waited too long to falter now. Elara's clothes went into donation bags, her jewelry into a drawer. By the time Marcus noticed, Elara's essence would be gone. Back at the hospital, Elara's mind raged as she overheard a nurse mention Marcus hadn't visited in days. He's letting her erase me. The betrayal cut deeper than the crash. But Jude's visit earlier, his refusal to let go, was a lifeline. Keep fighting, Jude. Find her out. Jude returned at dawn, armed with coffee and determination. He'd spent the night researching locked-in syndrome, his laptop littered with medical articles. Okay, Elle, he said, pulling his chair close. If you're in there, I need proof. Blink, twitch, anything. He watched her face, every muscle memorized from years of friendship. Her eyes, once bright with mischief, stared blankly. He fought despair, talking to fill the silence. Remember when we painted that mural and got paint in your hair? You were so mad. He laughed softly. God, I miss you. Then it happened, a faint tremor in her right eyelid, deliberate, not a reflex. Jude's breath caught. Elle? Do that again. Another twitch, stronger. He grabbed her hand, tears welling. Yes. That's it. 1 blink for yes, 2 for no, okay? Are you awake in there? A single blink. Jude hooped, startling a nurse passing by. She's in there. I knew it. The nurse frowned, skeptical, but Jude didn't care. He leaned in, whispering, "Did someone do this to you? Was it Serafina?" One blink. His blood ran cold. That bitch. I'm gonna bury her. Detective Kai Nakamura leaned against his desk, the accident report spread before him. The crash site photos were grim, Elara's car mangled, skid marks snaking down the hill. The official report called it mechanical failure, but Kai's gut churned. Brake failures on a car that knew? Too convenient. He'd seen Serafina at the hospital, her grief theatrical, her eyes too sharp for genuine tears. Something's not right, he told his partner, chewing a toothpick. The brake lines were clean-cut, not frayed. Someone tampered with them. He pulled up the mechanic's report, noting an odd detail, traces of an unfamiliar oil on the lines, not standard for the car's make. I'm heading to the garage on 5th Street. They serviced the car last. At the garage, the head mechanic, a wiry man named Rico, shifted nervously when Kai flashed his badge. "Yeah, I worked on the Vane car," Rico said, wiping his hands. "Routine stuff." "Routine doesn't cut brake lines," Kai pressed, eyes narrowing. "You see anyone poking around? Maybe a woman, tall, dark hair?" Rico hesitated, then muttered, "Look, I don't want trouble. This lady came by, asked about brake systems. Paid me to show her some tricks. Thought she was just curious." Kai's pulse quickened. Name? Didn't give one. But she had this intense vibe. Cash in hand, no questions. Kai nodded, slipping Rico his card. "Call me if you remember more." As he left, he knew he was onto something. Serafina's face flashed in his mind, her smug smile at the hospital. "Got you in my sights now." The hospital room was a sterile cage, but Elara Vane's mind was a battlefield, her will forged in the fire of Serafina Thorne's betrayal. Trapped in her body, she clung to the memory of Serafina's confession, each word a dagger. "I cut those brakes myself." Now, as the door creaked open, Elara's heart stuttered. Serafina's jasmine perfume flooded the room, followed by the rustle of glossy pages. Elara couldn't see, but she heard the smug lilt in Serafina's voice. "Poor Elara," Serafina purred, settling into the chair beside the bed. "You really thought you had it all. But look at you now, nothing but a husk." She flipped a page, the sound sharp. "Marcus and I are planning the wedding already. I found the perfect dress, ivory lace, fitted, with a train that'll make jaws drop. He's going to love it." Elara's mind screamed, rage boiling. "Wedding? You monster." Serafina leaned closer, her breath warm against Elara's ear. "I'm picking out china patterns too. Your tacky old plates? Gone. We'll have a new life, one you'll never touch." She laughed, low and cruel. "You should have stayed out of my way." The words were venom, but they fueled Elara's resolve. "You think you've won? I'm still here, and I'll destroy you." Serafina's heels clicked as she left, oblivious to the fire she'd stoked in the woman she believed was gone. Elara focused on Jude's system. 1 blink for yes, 2 for no, praying he'd return soon. She had a story to tell. Jude Hollis burst into the room, his leather jacket creaking, eyes wild with hope. Since confirming Elara's consciousness with her blinks, he'd barely slept, consumed by the need to expose Serafina. He pulled the chair close, his voice low and urgent. I'm here. Let's do this." 1 blink for yes, 2 for no. "Ready." A single blink. Jude exhaled, relief flooding him. "Okay, good. You said Serafina did this. Was it the car?" 1 blink. "Did she sabotage it?" Another blink. Jude's fists clenched, knuckles whitening. "That snake. Did she admit it to you?" 1 blink. Jude leaned closer, his voice a whisper. "What else? Did she say how?" Elara hesitated, her mind racing to convey the mechanic detail. She blinked once, then paused, hoping he'd ask more. Jude, intuitive as ever, tried again. "Did she mention someone else? Like, someone who helped her?" 1 blink. Jude's eyes narrowed. "Okay, we're getting somewhere. A mechanic? Someone from a shop." Another blink. He scribbled notes, heart pounding. "You're a goddamn warrior. I'm gonna nail her. Just hang on. He squeezed her hand, feeling the faintest pressure in return, a sign of her fight. As he left to chase the lead, Elara's mind churned. Hurry, Jude. She's moving faster than you know. Marcus Vane sat in the penthouse, the space unrecognizable without Elara's vibrant touch. Serafina had replaced her colorful throws with sleek grays, her art with sterile abstracts. He clutched a whiskey glass, guilt gnawing at him. Elara's accident haunted him, her last words, accusing him of betrayal, echoed in his mind. Had he been blind? Serafina glided in, her smile too perfect. Marcus, you're brooding again, she said, handing him a coffee. Let me take care of you. But her touch felt wrong, her presence invasive. He'd noticed inconsistencies. Her story about being at the office during the crash didn't match her phone's location data, which he'd glimpsed by chance. And why was she so eager to erase Elara's memory? Sarah, he said, voice tight, why'd you throw out Elara's paintings? They meant something to her. Serafina's eyes flickered, but she recovered quickly. Oh, darling, they were so cluttered. We're starting fresh, aren't we? Her hand grazed his shoulder, but he pulled away. I didn't ask for fresh, he snapped. This is still her home. Doubt crept in, cold and sharp. Had he misjudged her? As Serafina's smile faltered, Marcus's gut twisted. What have I let happen? Detective Kai Nakamura stood in the grimy office of 5th Street Auto, the air thick with oil and deceit. Rico, the mechanic, fidgeted under Kai's stare, his hands stained with grease and guilt. Kai slid a photo of Serafina across the desk, taken from hospital security footage. This her, he asked, voice like steel. Rico swallowed hard. Yeah, that's the lady. Paid me $2,000 to show her how to mess with brake lines. Said it was for some prank. He laughed nervously, then stopped under Kai's glare. I didn't know she'd actually do it, man. I swear. Kai leaned in, his toothpick snapping between his teeth. You're gonna testify to that, Rico. Every detail, dates, cash, what she said. Or I'll haul you in as an accessory to attempted murder. Rico nodded frantically, spilling everything. The exact date, the cash in an envelope, Serafina's cryptic comment about making someone disappear. Kai left with a recorded confession, his mind racing. The brake fluid matched the odd oil he'd found in the accident report. The case was solidifying, but he needed more, something to tie Serafina directly to the scene. As he drove to the hospital, he called Jude, who'd left a dozen voicemails about Elara's condition. Hollis, you were right, Kai said. She's conscious. And your friend's pointing me straight to the killer. Serafina Thorne paced her apartment, her composure cracking like thin ice. Jude's relentless visits to the hospital, Kai's probing questions at the precinct, she could feel the noose tightening. She'd overheard a nurse mention Jude's blink system, dismissing it as delusion, but it unnerved her. What if Elara was awake? The thought sent a chill down her spine. She needed Elara gone, permanently. A transfer to a remote facility, one with lax oversight, would bury the problem. She'd already charmed a hospital administrator, forging Marcus's signature on transfer papers. It's for her comfort, she'd lied, her smile disarming. The move was set for tomorrow. That night, she slipped into Elara's room, her pulse racing. One last visit, Elara, she whispered, clutching a syringe of sedative she'd swiped. You're going somewhere nobody will find you. She reached for the 4-line, her hands trembling with adrenaline. But a shadow moved in the corner, Jude, who'd been waiting, silent and watchful. Step away from her, Jude growled, stepping into the light. Serafina froze, the syringe slipping from her fingers. You thought you could finish her off? Not on my watch. Elara's mind roared with triumph. You're caught, Serafina. The room buzzed with tension as Jude advanced, his fists clenched, ready to protect his friend at any cost. The hospital room was a battlefield, the air thick with tension as Jude Hollis faced Serafina Thorne. Elara Vane, trapped in her silent prison, felt her heart pound in her mind, every sense heightened. Jude's voice was a low growl, his tattooed fists clenched. You thought you could sneak in here and finish her off, he said, stepping closer to Seraphina, who stood frozen, the syringe glinting on the floor. You're done, Thorn. Seraphina's eyes darted, her composure unraveling. You don't understand, she stammered, backing toward the door. I was just checking on her. Checking with a syringe? Jude snapped, blocking her path. I heard you. Planning to ship her off. Kill her quietly. Elara's been awake, you idiot. She's heard everything. His voice shook with rage, but he kept his distance, knowing any move could escalate. Elara's mind screamed, Get her, Jude. Don't let her escape. Seraphina lunged for the door, but Jude was faster, grabbing her wrist. She shrieked, clawing at him, her nails drawing blood. Let me go. You have no proof. The struggle knocked over a tray, instruments clattering. A nurse burst in, eyes wide. Call security, Jude shouted, pinning Seraphina against the wall. Elara's soul soared. Her ally had caught the snake in the act. As security dragged a screaming Seraphina away, Jude leaned over Elara, whispering, We got her, Elle. You're safe now. A single blink answered him, her silent vow. This isn't over yet. Elara's world shifted that night, adrenaline coursing through her trapped body. The commotion had jarred something loose. Her voice, long silenced, clawed its way up. As Jude sat by her side, recounting the takedown, she focused every ounce of will. Her lips trembled, a rasp escaping. Thorn. The single word, hoarse and faint, hit Jude like a thunderbolt. He froze, eyes wide. Elle, did you just say something? Another rasp. Thorn. Jude leapt up, shouting for a doctor. She spoke. She's speaking. A neurologist rushed in, skeptical but intrigued, shining a light in Elara's eyes. Can you say it again? The doctor asked. Elara's throat burned, but she forced it out. Seraphina, Thorn. Each syllable was a victory, her voice a weapon breaking free. Jude grabbed his phone, recording as the doctor asked, Elara, do you know who did this to you? One blink, then another strained word. Breaks. The room buzzed with shock. The doctor scribbled notes, muttering about a breakthrough. Jude knelt beside her, tears streaming. You're back, Elle. We're gonna bury her. Elara's mind blazed with purpose. I'm not just awake. I'm fighting. Her single word, Thorn, was a spark that would ignite Seraphina's downfall. Detective Kai Nakamura arrived at the hospital within the hour, his jaw set as he listened to Jude's account and Elara's rasped accusation. The security footage showed Seraphina's attempt with a syringe, and Rico's confession about the brake sabotage was already on file. Kai stormed to the holding area where Seraphina sat, her mascara streaked, her charm replaced by defiance. You're under arrest for attempted murder, conspiracy, and tampering with evidence, Kai said, cuffs clicking around her wrists. Seraphina's eyes blazed. You can't prove anything. Marcus will back me up. But Marcus, summoned by Kai, stood in the doorway, his face pale. He'd heard Jude's frantic call, heard Elara's voice naming Seraphina. The truth crashed over him. Every lie, every touch, every moment he'd trusted her. Sarah, he whispered, voice breaking. You did this? To Elara? Seraphina's bravado crumbled, her scream echoing as Kai led her away. Marcus, please. I did it for us. He turned away, guilt crushing him. In Elara's room, he sank into a chair, unable to meet her gaze. I'm so sorry, he choked out. Elara blinked once, her heart torn between love and betrayal. You let her in, Marcus. But I'm still here. Days later, Elara's voice grew stronger, her words halting but clear. Physical therapy began, her fingers twitching with more control. Marcus visited, his eyes hollow with remorse. Elle, I was blind, he said, voice raw. I didn't see her for what she was. I failed you. Elara looked at him, her once husband, now a stranger. You didn't just fail me, she rasped, each word deliberate. You let her erase me. Our home, our life. She paused, pain flashing in her eyes. I forgive you, Marcus. But we're done. I can't trust you anymore. He nodded, tears falling. I know. I don't deserve you. He stood, shoulders slumped, and left, the door closing on their marriage. Elara felt a pang but also freedom. I'm not his anymore. I'm mine. Jude, ever her rock, squeezed her hand. You're a badass, Elle. You don't need him. Her single blink was agreement, her heart set on reclaiming her life. 6 months later, Elara stood on her own, shaky but defiant, in a sunlit cafe overlooking the ocean. The penthouse was sold, the proceeds funding her new chapter. Serafina's trial had been swift. Rico's testimony, the syringe, Elara's own words sealing her fate. A 20-year sentence for attempted murder felt like justice, though Elara cared less about revenge than renewal. Jude sat across from her, planning their next adventure, a trip to Paris, where Elara would curate a new exhibit. You sure you're ready? He asked, grinning. Gonna take on the art world with a cane? She laughed, her voice stronger every day. Watch me. Her eyes sparkled with the fire Serafina tried to snuff out. The crash, the coma, the betrayal, they'd scarred her, but they'd also forged her. She wasn't the wife who'd trusted blindly or the victim who'd lain silent. She was Elara Vane, survivor, creator, free. As they boarded the plane, Jude at her side, Elara looked out at the horizon. This is my life now. And it's just beginning. The world waited, and she was ready to claim it. The end.